Chapter 11, New Roots. The morning light filtered softly through the kitchen window, casting golden hues over the table scattered with gardening tools and seed packets. Clara and Theo stood side by side, sleeves rolled up, hands in the soil of the small backyard. "I never thought I'd find peace in dirt and roots," Clara smiled, planting a tiny sprout carefully. Theo chuckled, pulling weeds with steady hands. "There's something honest about growing things," he said. "You put in the effort, the care, and eventually you get life back." Their eyes met. A quiet understanding passed between them. The garden. As days turned to weeks, the garden flourished. Bright blooms and green leaves weaving life back into the old house. Neighbors started stopping by, curious about the change. One afternoon, a local named Grace, an elderly woman with gentle eyes, brought over a basket of fresh herbs. "Your mother would have loved this," Grace said softly, touching a blooming lavender. Clara nodded, heart full. "I'm starting to understand what she left behind. Not just paint and letters," Grace added, "but roots, shared stories." Theo and Clara found themselves sharing stories late into the night, about lost loves, about what could have been, about what still might be. "I'm scared," Clara admitted one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of what? Of hope, of opening up and then losing again." Theo reached for her hand. "I'm scared too," he said, "but maybe that's the only way to truly live." A step forward. One afternoon, Clara received a call from Elise. "There's more from your grandfather," Elise said. "Things he wanted you to have, including a small property nearby." Clara shared the news with Theo. "Maybe it's time for a new chapter," she said. Theo smiled. "Let's write it together." Quiet confidence. Under the soft glow of the evening sky, Clara and Theo sat on the bench they built. The ocean whispered a steady rhythm. They no longer needed to run. Together they were planting new roots, fragile but determined. Chapter 12, The Shape of Belonging. The new bench had already started to weather. Salt in the wood waned through the grain, like the sea was claiming it, soft and slow. Clara sat there one morning, barefoot and wrapped in a blanket, watching Theo fix the latch on the garden gate. There was something beautiful in his focus, in how his hands moved like they'd found purpose again. "You always this handy?" she asked with a smile. "Only when I'm trying to impress someone," he said, not looking up. "Is it working?" He grinned. "I'll let the bench answer. Plans." That afternoon, they spread blueprints across the dining table, not architectural ones, just sketches on scrap paper. "What if we turn the back room into a proper studio?" Clara said. "And the attic?" Theo asked. "Maybe a reading loft? With skylights?" They talked easily, letting themselves imagine. For the first time, Clara didn't feel like she was preserving something. She was building it, a voice from the past. Just after dusk, the phone rang. It was Elise. "There's one more thing," she said. "I didn't want to say it over the phone before, but your father kept a recorded message. For you." Clara froze. "A message? It's old. He recorded it shortly after he was diagnosed. He wanted it delivered to you when you were ready." "Am I? I think if you're asking, then yes." The tape. Elise sent it overnight, a small envelope. Inside it, a digital recording on a USB. They sat in the study together. Candlelight flickered on the walls. Theo rested his hand on Clara's knee. She pressed play. "Clara, if this reaches you, I guess I didn't get the chance to say it myself. I'm sorry. I've been sorry every day since I left your mother, since I failed her, since I missed your life. You were just a baby the last time I saw you, but you had her eyes. You used to draw hearts on the porch, remember? I'd sit there and wonder how something so small could hold so much hope. I tried to come back. I did, but shame is a powerful thing, and time doesn't wait for the broken. But I want you to know, I kept your photo in my wallet every day. I told strangers about you, and I never stopped loving your mother, or you. If I've left anything behind, let it be the truth. You were always worth coming back for, even if I didn't know how. I hope you found someone better than me, And I hope you forgave her, even when she couldn't speak the words herself. I love you, Clara. Click. Silence. Breathing again. Clara didn't cry, not right away. Instead, she reached for Theo and held him like a life raft. He said it, she whispered. He finally said it. Theo nodded, arms around her. He didn't offer advice or answers, just presence. And it was enough. The letter she wrote. Later that night, Clara wrote again. Dear Dad, I wish you could see the garden. Theo built a bench. I sit on it every morning and think about you. You broke us. But I'm learning that broken things can grow new edges. I forgive you. I hope you found peace. And I hope wherever you are, you know I'm okay. Not perfect, but okay. I'm writing again. And for the first time, I'm not writing to forget. I'm writing to remember. Love, Clara. She folded the page and placed it beside her mother's final canvas. Then she turned off the light and left the door open. Again. Chapter 13, A Window to the Future. The attic always smelled of cedar, dust, and something sweeter Clara could never name. Maybe her mother's perfume, long faded into the wood. She hadn't been up there in weeks. Not since finding the music box, not since the light began returning to the house. This morning, something pulled her upward again. She opened the windows wide. The sea breeze swept in, waking forgotten corners. Golden light warmed the floorboards. And there, in the rafters behind an old trunk, she found it. A small wooden box, child-sized, hand-painted, clumsy blue flowers, and a name in shaky letters, Clara. The keepsake. Inside the box were scraps of childhood. A tiny red ribbon, a rock shaped like a heart. A faded paper star with crayon writing, When I grow up, I want to be brave like Mom. At the bottom, a photo, her mother, laughing, holding toddler Clara in one arm, a paintbrush in the other. Tucked behind the photo, a folded note in her mother's handwriting. If you find this one day, it means I did something right. You remembered where to look. Clara pressed her forehead to her knees and let herself cry, not for grief, but for love that endured. Theo's offer. Meanwhile, Theo sat alone on the bluff, phone in hand. A former commanding officer had reached out. There was a new position, non-combat, stateside, in a coastal city. Good pay, structured, secure. We could use a man like you, the message had said. You don't have to decide now. But soon, Theo stared out at the sea. He'd come here to leave all that behind. But now, with Clara, everything was different. A conversation not avoided. That evening, he told her. Clara listened quietly, stirring a spoon in her tea. Do you want to go? She asked gently. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me does. For the structure, the purpose. And the other part is sitting here with you, wondering if I'd regret it every single day. She smiled faintly. You've rebuilt more than a house, Theo. You've rebuilt yourself. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. But what if I still want to? She reached across the table, fingers brushing his. Then we figure it out. Together. Even if it means leaving? Her eyes didn't flinch. Even if it means hurting a little first. The sketch. Later that night, Clara returned to her studio. She began a new painting. No longer her mother's unfinished canvas, but her own. It wasn't sorrowful. It was hopeful. Theo's silhouette stood in the painting's foreground. Not walking away, but turning toward her. Arms open. Future uncertain, but not alone. And in the background, a bench beneath windswept trees. Waiting. Chapter 14. The Letter You Never Send. It was a quiet morning. The kind of morning where the sky forgets how to rain and the sea forgets how to rage. Theo had left early. No words, just a note on the counter, going for a drive. Need to clear my head, back by dinner, and Clara understood. Because she too had things she needed to say. But not to him, not yet. To herself. The letter. She sat at her mother's old writing desk, the one still stained with ink and dried petals. A clean sheet of paper waited. The pen in her hand trembled once, then steadied. Dear me, you've always been the one who stays quiet. who folds herself into the corners of other people's stories, who walks around grief like it's a locked room you're not allowed to open. But look at you now. You opened the attic. You unearthed the past. You let someone in, and you let yourself feel. And yes, it's terrifying, but maybe that's how we know it's real. Theo might go, or he might stay. That part's not yours to decide. But what is yours is this. You are not a half-finished canvas. You are not someone else's echo. You are whole. Whether you walk alone or beside someone, you are enough. Love me. She folded the letter and placed it in the drawer next to her mother's last note. Not to send, not to seal, just to say, Theo's drive. Theo took the winding coastal road until the sea fell out of view. He stopped at an overlook, sat on the hood of the car, watched the clouds move like quiet giants. Inside, he played the message from his former commander again, the same voice, the same offer, security, purpose, a second career. But every word felt distant, because the sound he missed more than anything now was her laughter through the kitchen window. He ran a hand through his hair, closed his eyes. He'd been trained to leave, to detach, to survive. But he hadn't been trained to stay. And maybe that was the hardest thing of all. The clock. Back at the house, Clara lit a fire as dusk rolled in. She counted the hours, not with fear, but with knowing. She didn't pace. She didn't panic. She simply waited. Because sometimes love isn't chasing or clinging. Sometimes it's sitting still and trusting someone will return. The return. It was after dark when headlights swept across the yard. Theo walked through the door, rein on his shoulders, hands in his pockets. Clara stood in the kitchen, still in her cardigan, tea steeping. "Did you find your answer?" she asked gently. He stepped forward. "I did." A pause. "And?" He met her eyes, tired, clear, full of decision. "I don't want a job that teaches me how to leave again." She didn't speak, just waited. "I want to stay," he said. "Not because it's easy, but because it's right." She stepped into his arms like coming home. No grand speeches, just the quiet relief of choosing each other. Chapter 15, The Things We Plant. It started with tomatoes. Theo built the frame for them by hand, wood reclaimed from the old shed behind the house. Clara laughed as he struggled with the last beam, smearing dirt on his cheek without noticing. "You're good with big things," she teased. "Battles, boards, heartbreak. But not with tomatoes. Let's just say you're learning." By the end of the morning, the garden had 4 new raised beds. Lavender, rosemary, wild strawberries, tomatoes, planted in a neat row, like promises waiting for sun. The studio. Clara's studio had transformed too. Light poured in now, soft and warm. New canvases lined the walls. A sketch of the bluff, a portrait of Theo asleep in the chair he claimed as his own, a painting of the bench, half in shadow, half in sun. She painted not because she was chasing something lost. She painted because there was joy again. Theo would bring her tea and sit nearby, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching. "Once," he said, "when you paint, the world slows down." "When you're near," she replied, "it stops altogether." A visit from Elise. Elise arrived one morning with a dusty box. Inside, Clara's father's medals, old letters, a photograph of a younger James with baby Clara in his arms. Elise looked around the garden, the studio, the house. "He would have loved this," she said. "Then I'm glad we're here to build it," Clara replied. Elise paused, hesitant. "He left one more thing, a deed, a cabin in North Carolina. He bought it for your mother once, never gave it to her. Maybe it's meant for you now." Clara blinked. A cabin, another piece of the story, another choice. "I'll think about it," she said. Plans. That night, Clara and Theo sat on the bench beneath the stars. The garden rustled softly behind them. "What would you do with a cabin?" Theo asked. "Paint," Clara said. "Write. Build a porch. Maybe teach workshops in the summer." "That sounds like a dream. It doesn't have to stay a dream." He looked at her, thoughtful. "Would you go?" She shrugged. "Only if you came too." A new tradition. On Sunday mornings, they started a tradition. No phones, no work. Just music from an old record player and breakfast on the porch. Clara made jam from the early strawberries. Theo cooked with exaggerated seriousness, like breakfast was a battlefield. They read books out loud. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. Sometimes that was the best part. The letter she finally sent. Clara sat down one night and wrote a letter, not to the past, not to herself, but to Elise. She thanked her for the truth, for the bridge between silence and understanding. And she mailed it. Not because it would fix anything, but because some stories deserve a real ending. Chapter 16. The Weight of Light. The town summer festival came with the scent of peaches and sea air. Colorful pennants rippled overhead. Children ran barefoot across the grass, faces sticky with honey. Music drifted from the bandstand. Warm, imperfect, alive. Clara hadn't been to the festival in years. Not since before her mother got sick. Not since before everything. But this time, Theo was beside her. He reached for her hand as they passed beneath the fairy lights. He didn't let go. "Tell me something you used to love about this place," he said. "The peach pie contest," she smiled. It always ended in shouting. "You're joking. I've seen grandmothers nearly throw punches." Among the crowd, people stopped them, neighbors, former classmates, even the town librarian. "It's good to see you smile again," one woman said gently to Clara. "Your mother would be proud." Clara nodded, throat thick. "I hope so." Theo watched her with quiet admiration. He saw it now, how she belonged here, how she fit into the rhythm of the town, not as someone returning, but as someone rooted. The dance. Near dusk, a slow song played. Couples took to the square beneath the hanging lights. Theo extended his hand with a small, shy smile. "May I?" Clara hesitated, but only for a second. "You may." They danced, barely moving, swaying together like branches in a summer breeze. People watched, but Clara didn't care. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of being seen. The offer. A woman approached them after the dance. Mid-40s, artistic eyes, clipboard in hand. "Clara Moore?" she asked. "Yes, I'm Erin Hale, director of the Coastal Artist Residency Program. We've been watching your work, your new studio, your recent exhibition at the cafe. Would you consider applying to our fall program? It's 3 months, paid, includes a gallery show." Clara blinked. Theo stepped back, letting her stand in her own light. I didn't know anyone noticed," Clara murmured. "We notice," Erin smiled. "You have something that speaks." She handed over a card. "Applications close in 3 weeks." Theo's eyes. Later, walking home through the quiet streets, Clara held the card like something delicate. 3 months, she said. "I heard," Theo replied softly. "I don't even know if I'll apply. But do you want to?" She stopped beneath a street lamp. "Yes," she whispered. "I think I really do." Theo took a long breath, then smiled. "Then you should." She searched his face. "Are you sure?" "Clara," he said, "you let me stay. You gave me space to choose. Now it's my turn to hold that door open for you." Her eyes welled. She leaned into his chest and breathed him in. "You're not afraid I won't come back?" "No," he said, "because I think we've both finally learned. Love doesn't disappear just because it has to stretch." Chapter 17, The Space Between. The application sat on Clara's desk like a dare, unsent, half-finished, full of hope she hadn't yet said out loud. She'd rewritten the artist's statement 3 times. None of it felt quite right, not because she didn't want the residency, but because part of her still questioned if she was allowed to want more. Theo found her there, late morning, brow furrowed, surrounded by drafts and coffee mugs. "Need a second pair of eyes?" he asked. "Maybe a second brain." He read in silence. When he looked up, he said only, "It's honest, which makes it beautiful." A quiet gesture. Later that day, Clara walked into her studio to find something new on the wall, a small plaque hand-carved by Theo. It read, "Let this space be a beginning." She ran her fingers over the grain of it, then looked at him. "You made this? Not bad for a soldier. Not bad for someone who's better at tomatoes than carving." He smiled, boyish and proud. She laughed, and in that laugh the weight of uncertainty lightened. An unexpected visit. That evening the doorbell rang. When Clara opened it, she froze. Standing there was Miles Brennan, the boy she'd once loved before Theo, before grief, before everything cracked. He looked older, sharper, still wearing the same leather-strapped watch he used to fiddle with during exams. "Miles," she said, stunned. "Clara, I hope this isn't a terrible idea. What are you doing here?" "I was passing through, visiting my aunt in Redmond. I heard you were back and, well, I just wanted to say hello." She hesitated. "Come in. Old ghosts." They sat in the kitchen. Clara made tea. Theo wasn't home. Miles looked around. "This place hasn't changed much," he said. "That's what I thought too, until I did." He laughed softly. "I always thought you'd move to the city, do gallery shows, live in a loft with bad plumbing and perfect light. So did I." A pause. "Are you happy?" he asked. Clara stirred her tea. "I'm becoming happy." "Is that the guy I saw fixing the gate?" "That's Theo. He looks like someone who's used to fighting." "He is, but he's learning how to stay." Miles nodded, quiet. "I was never good at staying." "No," Clara said. "You weren't." Closure. As Miles stood to leave, he paused by the door. "I was a coward," he said. "Back then, I ran when I should have stayed. I didn't know how to love someone who was grieving." "I didn't know how to let anyone in," Clara replied. "Maybe we were just too young." She smiled, kind but firm. "Or maybe we just weren't right." He nodded. "Either way, I'm glad you found someone who is." Then he was gone, and Clara felt something inside her quietly shift. Not regret, not sadness, just space. Space where something used to be. Now open, now ready. Chapter 18. Before the Tide Turns. The drive to the cabin was long and slow, carved through whispering pines and winding hills. They didn't speak much. Clara kept the window open, letting the scent of cedar and warm earth fill the car. Theo tapped the steering wheel in rhythm with an old folk song playing low on the radio. "It smells like something old," Clara said softly. "Old but clean," Theo replied. "Like something that waited patiently." She looked out the window and nodded. Exactly that. The cabin. It was small, tucked into a clearing, weathered but sturdy. The kind of place someone built by hand, not for show, but for keeping warm. The porch creaked when they stepped onto it. The key Elise gave her fit like it had always belonged. Inside, dust motes spun through golden shafts of sunlight. The air smelled of pine, old paper, and time. On the wall, a single framed photo of Clara's mother holding a paintbrush, laughing. Younger than Clara remembered her, freer. A note was pinned beside it in her father's handwriting. "I built this for you. If ever you find it, I hope you know. Some things last longer than they deserve to." Unpacking the quiet. They didn't say much that first hour. Theo built a fire. Clara explored the small kitchen, touched the empty window frames, ran her hands along the wood. It was unfinished, but full of possibility. "It feels like a breath," she said. "Not a full one," Theo added, "but the kind you take before something begins." That night, they cooked a simple dinner. Afterward, they sat on the porch, wrapped in one blanket, watching the stars emerge one by one. "What would you do with this place?" Theo asked. "Make it into something open, a place people come to heal, to write, to paint, to listen to the trees." "Sounds like a kind of church." She smiled against his shoulder. "Maybe it is." The question, later, inside, as they settled into the creaky bed beneath layers of wool blankets, Theo spoke quietly. "Do you want to keep it?" Clara was quiet a long time. Then yes. "But not yet. Not yet. It's not time. There's still something unfinished back home. Something I haven't let fully bloom." your studio. And you, he turned toward her in the dim light. Me. You're part of what I'm building, Theo, and I don't want to leave it behind, not for anything. The fire and the wind. Outside, wind stirred the trees. Inside, the fire softened the shadows. They didn't make promises. They didn't plan everything. They simply breathed, together, and that was enough. Morning departure. By morning, mist clung to the ground like something sacred. Clara walked the porch alone before they left, touching the wood, the key, the frame. She didn't cry. She simply whispered, "I'll come back when it's time." And then she turned and walked toward Theo, waiting by the car, waiting for whatever came next. Chapter 19. When the letter arrives. The morning was quiet but electric, as if the air itself held its breath. Clara's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She picked it up with trembling hands. An email from the Coastal Artist Residency Program. Her heart hammered as she opened it. Dear Clara Moore, we are pleased to inform you. Acceptance. Clara read the words over and over. Accepted. A 3-month residency. Paid. A gallery show at the end. Her dream, it felt surreal, like the sea rising slowly beneath her feet, lifting her higher than she dared hope. Theo's news. At the same moment, Theo's phone rang, the local historical society. They offered him a curator position. Part-time, flexible, rooted. He hesitated. But the smile he felt spreading was different from any he'd known in years. Sharing the news. That evening, they sat together at the table, letters and phones between them. Clara looked up, eyes shining. I got in. Theo's grin matched hers. Me too. They laughed, the sound spilling warm and bright. This is everything we talked about, Clara said. Growth, roots, together, the crossroads. But the reality settled in quickly. 3 months away. A small job, but still a job. How do we make this work? Clara whispered. Theo took her hand. Like we always have. One day at a time. What if it's not enough? Then we talk. We listen. We hold on. I'm scared. Me too. They looked out the window at the moonlit garden. But I want to try, she said. So do I. That night, under the soft glow of fairy lights in the garden, they made a quiet promise. Not of forever, but of now. To cherish this moment. To be brave enough to say goodbye if needed. And brave enough to come back. Chapter 20. The Tide Returns. Clara stood at the airport, the hum of the terminal a distant roar beneath the pounding of her heart. Her suitcase was heavy with paintings, journals, and hopes. Theo's hand found hers. This isn't goodbye, he said. It's see you soon. The residency. Days turned into weeks. Clara's world filled with new faces, bright studios, and late nights painting under unfamiliar skies. She sent letters, sketches, and photos back to Theo, each message a thread keeping them connected. Theo's roots back home. Theo settled into his curator role. He found comfort in the steady rhythm of the Historical Society, in preserving stories, and in small moments that reminded him of Clara. He planted a rose bush outside the studio window, the first sign of spring. The distance between. Nights were the hardest. Phone calls sometimes tangled in time zones. Messages sometimes went unanswered. Loneliness crept in, but so did strength. Unexpected visitors one afternoon. A letter arrived at the studio. A note from Elise. Inside, a photograph of the cabin, now with a small porch swing. A reminder that some places and some people wait for us to return. Reunion. Months later, Clara stepped off the plane with tired eyes and a fuller heart. Theo was there, waiting. No grand speeches, just a quiet smile and open arms. The tide returns back at the house. The garden was blooming brighter than ever. The bench they built still held its place beneath the windswept trees. Together they watched the tide roll in. And in the rhythm of waves and whispered promises, they found their way home.